Amy Morella's requested, and
Patiently here, so.
she's probably still here first.
You finished with us, right?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm just going to read your request.
Sure. The email? Yes, thank you.
I have a particular reason for reading it, but I'm sure you'll
That was
appreciate
in
it.
our,
Okay.
Dear Chris, please share with the members of the Town Planning and Zoning Commission that I request the opportunity to offer public comments at the beginning of their meeting on Monday, March 7, 2016. I have two documents that we did just receive that I would like to share with them. I promise to be brief.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Amy Morella, Wendy for
Thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. As I indicated in my email requesting an opportunity to speak, I wanted to share correspondence between myself and the Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection, which I will refer to as DEEP to make this shorter, regarding that's relevant to the town's plan of conservation and development, which I will refer to as the POCD, also to save time. I know the POCD is final, but I hope that this correspondence will inform your thinking when you apply the POCD and will also inform in due course revisions to the POCD. Chapter 6 of the POCD cites the state's green plan, a deep document that sets a goal of preserving 21% of the state's land as protected open space, with 10% to be preserved by the state and 11% to be preserved by municipalities and their partners, including nonprofits and water utilities. Some of you may recall that I spoke at the public hearing on the draft POCD. The text of the final POCD is softer, thank you, with respect to the green plan and its application to Woodbridge. However, the precise wording on page 91 remains troubling. At page 91, the POCD asserts that the town's, quote, open space acreage is more than double the green plan's 11% target for municipalities and their partners, end quote. This sentence might be understood to suggest that the green plan sets a goal of 11% open space within each town boundary to be owned by non-state actors. In January, I wrote a letter to DEEP citing the Woodbridge POCD and seeking clarification of the state's green plan. In a letter dated February 19, 2016, Commissioner Robert Klee of DEEP responded. While Chris has given you those letters, I would like to read an excerpt from Mr. Klee's response. He says, quote, the state of Connecticut's goals for open space protection are divided between state-owned lands and lands held by our partners, municipalities, environmental conservation organizations, and water utilities. That division of the goal, however, is not further segmented by municipal boundaries, end quote. I hope you will bear Commissioner Klee's letter in mind, both as you apply the POCD and when you eventually update the POCD itself. Thank you very much.
Okay, so just a quick comment. One is I kind of wish we had gotten this before the meeting, but I understand maybe it couldn't happen. But the other thing I'll tell you is that is not what the commission meant when they approved the writing, the wording on page 91. And if we had got a little notice, we could go back and look at the tape. It's pretty clear. We make that point very clear, responding to your comment, that is not the way the POCD is written. The POCD is just making a point that we have this much land and we are well beyond what the state is asking towns to do. So I get your point. No one is suggesting in that POCD that we only stick to this number of 11% or 10%, et cetera.
Well, I would actually clarify that is not the number that you do not own. The town does not own more than what the state is asking of it, because the state isn't asking anything per municipality. The state is asking for municipalities as a whole. We enjoy all the benefits of New Haven, which is an urban community which cannot possibly enjoy 11% open space. And so the burden on us as a region is to own considerably more if there is still open space that is yet to be developed.
And
That's all. That's why I think the sentence, I appreciate your effort to clarify, I still thought it was open to misinterpretation, and so I engaged in this correspondence with the DEP.
Cool, thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Rosalie Rowland. Joining us tonight. Before you actually start, so I'm not privy to everything, but I understand you had a meeting with the town attorney to discuss what your comment here, discussion of what will happen to 110 Luciani Street.
Yes, my husband and I did, but then Wade couldn't be here tonight because he's recuperating from his surgery of last week. We really didn't get any answers, so that's why I wanted to just find out. Can I just ask my questions? Thanks. First of all, thank you all for stopping, bringing an end to what was going down at the end of our street. Now we just want to restore the property as best as possible. Since the previous application was denied, what is the current status of notifying the surety company of this denial? Couldn't really get it from town attorney. I was wondering if you know, he was going to check with Terry Gilbertson on the status of what was going on. And what is the town's current plan action with the surety company? What is the money going to be used for, the $70,000? And by renewing the bond, and I came up today and I got a new bond, by renewing the bond, does that mean he can submit a new application? And who requested from the town that the surety bond should be renewed, and what is the purpose of the renewal? And based on all the above, we can find no evidence in the file regarding any emails between Dwight and the town attorney and the enforcement officer and TPC. Shouldn't that all be part of the permanent record? And big thing is, why hasn't the contractor returned to the site to fulfill his obligation in terms and conditions of the permit pertaining to the soil erosion and sediment control and the unsafe conditions that exist, which was mutually agreed upon back in, I believe it was September 2015, when Dwight raised his hand and said, somebody, you have to cancel the meeting. But Dwight asked the question, who's going to maintain this kind of pit? And yeah, the builder was going to come back and change the hay bales and do different things and make sure the erosion control is in place. We've had a lot of heavy rain, and it's clearly evident that the controls are not in place and the contractor has not returned to the site. The town's responsibility is to cite the violations of the contractor in writing to ensure the contractor addresses these violations without delay. It is clearly evident that this has not at all happened on the site, and there's no written documentation in the file from the town citing the contractor of the clear violations. With the new bond, there was something that was missing, and I wanted to question on it was that can't find the exact paper now of why the land wouldn't be restored. Oh, here, erosion. Here's another writer. and this is the one that expires May 26th. And the new bond lists most of these things, but it doesn't say permanent site stabilization and the permanent restoration of all disturbed areas of the site.
I haven't seen that.
No, this is the old one. So the
Okay.
new one doesn't
Haven't
list
seen
that. I was just wondering, why wouldn't the new one list it?
I haven't seen it. I have no idea.
Pardon?
I haven't not seen that document. I have no
What,
idea.
this one?
Correct.
The new one,
Terry was out last week ill all week when that came back.
okay? Because it just states the installation of stormwater management, the implementation of the retaining wall. I don't know why they didn't continue it. So now, do any of you have any idea what is going on the site?
Well, actually, we're gonna hope that Mr. Gilbertson could enlighten us for whatever he knows.
I've heard that the site bond has been continued, renewed by the contractor. I heard that, I guess, from a conversation with town council. Whenever it's rained, I felt an obligation to observe the condition of the site. I'm not sure why, but I felt the obligation to do so. And the site is very stable. You're absolutely right. We've received a lot of water through that site. In some of the harshest conditions that we have, where we have frozen earth and water running on top of frozen earth, is typically where a lot of erosion happens. And it is completely stable. I'm there after a big event, as close to the big event, if not during it, as I can be. And I haven't seen anything moving whatsoever. Whether that the contractor has responded to the site, if I felt I had to notify him something, I would do so, but there hasn't been anything to notify him about.
So no safety nor health concerns?
Not in my view.
Well, my husband begs to differ, and he just had surgery last week, but he's willing to walk the site with you and videotape it for all the things that are unsafe and how the water is not, the sediment control is not in place.
When he's feeling better, why don't you have him give me a call?
I will. In the meantime, and this was surprising. This was the day this was January 5th. Remember it was cold that night? This is,
And these are pictures of what?
I think if you're gonna submit them, you should submit them to the
We'll
commission
submit
and we'll all
them
take a
and,
look.
we'll all take a look at them, okay?
So I mean.
so the water is coming out of the mountain and it's forming ice,
Okay.
okay? And now the rocks, those rocks, they're all falling. Okay, and the last rainstorm, that's how the streets were up to my house. And the storm drains. You can see the rocks that are falling, so. And then today, I went down. You can see where those rocks fell. So it's unsafe. The fencing is falling.
What do you, I mean, again, I'm not gonna play attorney because there's already too many at the table, but,
Too many?
I'm sorry to hear that.
How's
That's
it,
your
how can there be
opinion,
too many?
but that's okay. I guess the record is
I get to say that.
understandable. Yes.
It's private property now.
But can't,
So the safety of the people who live on the property, certainly not the neighbors, because the neighbors probably aren't going on private property. So, and he has to have insurance on the property, so if someone did go on that property and they got hurt on, my assumption is that his insurance would have to cover that.
but, how about the safety issues? Doesn't the town have to, worry about safety issues for other residents, say for instance, people walk on other people's property all the time. People do stupid things.
I think Terry said you walk the property with your husband when your husband's able.
Oh, I didn't walk the property, we walk on the street.
No, I said,
Oh, but
Terry
we'll
has
walk
made-
around it, we won't go on the property. I thought I'd say that like town planning and zoning, the responsibilities were, number one, the property values. Another thing is, the Malazzi girls couldn't be here tonight, but they cannot sell their house at Ballal, and they're very concerned about that. And we just would like to know, is there anything the town can do to make it safe, clean it up?
Excuse me, when you say safe, are you saying it's affecting other properties in terms of the safety? Meaning, are rocks from that property falling on somebody else's property?
Well, the rocks on the hill are starting to fall. They could go on, Mr. Coffin says, they wouldn't go on mine because I'm far away from there. They could go on Mr. Coffin's.
But nothing has happened as of yet.
But the rocks have fallen.
But no, but on his property?
No, I don't believe
Okay,
so.
so
Okay,
the rocks, if any rocks have fallen, they've fallen on the property itself.
right. And you can
Okay.
see how the hill is.
Yeah.
Okay. I was just wondering,
I just want to make sure.
is there anything that the town could do to help the residents clean it up, make it look better, put better fence up?
Well, I mean, I'm gonna say I don't know, and I don't think so, but that was why I had requested that the town attorney meet with you on it, so,
Right.
but I guess that.
But then, the $70,000 bond, what's the purpose of having a bond? Like, and if he's violated something, couldn't the town call the bond in and use $70,000 to help restore the property?
It's not my understanding, but maybe Mr. Gilbertson could explain it to us.
I believe that the bond secures performance of a certain thing, and that's a certain plan. You know, this commission took your advice and denied his
Right.
last. So what's in front of the town attorney is your question to them of what status this property is at present. The good news is that it's stable.
Okay, but when someone asked Mr. Friscola, and he said, you know, to stabilize the rock and take those stockpiles and kind of spread it around and bring some topsoil, you know, make it look presentable. You can't make this man do anything.
Not that I'm aware of, but that's why we addressed it to the town attorney. So I'm not aware of that. I mean, it's private property.
So we could
I
leave
mean, it
it.
doesn't sound like a blight thing.
Blight has to do with structures.
So I just don't understand why the residents who pay taxes and how we have to look at this all the time. This man could come in and make a mess and leave a mess. And we have to live with it. And I agree with you that
Yeah.
Mother Nature could take its course and everything like that. I wholeheartedly agree. But, you know, just the site itself, he hasn't even wanted to come back. Don't you think that's strange?
Well, he did submit an application that got rejected, so he's probably not a happy guy.
Probably not, but I would just think that he'd want to clean up his site and take his big hook off the site and, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna
I know we
defend, I'm
can't
not gonna
go-
defend the
yes, we
owner, I
can-
mean, I don't know what to tell you, but, I mean, it is, to me, it's private property, I don't see how, I mean, anybody can dig a hole in their property and
Leave
it's-
it?
It's your property.
Okay.
I'm not saying it's attractive, I'm just saying it's his property.
There was no appeal filed, Terry.
Not to my knowledge.
Okay, so we'll look into it further. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, and land use staff. Don Salato have appeared on this matter before, and I'm again appearing on behalf of adjacent landowners, Mary and Peter.
Mr. Salah, I'm not, while I appreciate you're up here, this isn't a public hearing, and so.
I think I can amplify on a question she had that she didn't have quite the facts, and that's with respect to the bond.
If we can make it very brief.
Yes, I have the original bond, which was renewed on December 15th, 2015, for the period March 27th, 2016 to March 27th, 2017, has as its conditions for fulfillment grading, the installation of the retaining walls, the installation of stormwater management, the implementation of the retaining walls et al. Interestingly, I think what Mrs. Rowland was trying to recall, there's a rider dated May 26, 2015, which refers to the description I just read in conditions, and it says the description has been changed to read grading, the installation of the retaining walls, the installation of stormwater management, the implementation of the retaining walls, the installation and maintenance of erosion and sedimentation control measures, permanent site stabilization, and the permanent restoration of all disturbed areas, City of Woodbridge. No further changes other than above. My question is if we can find out if this rider is still a part of the renewal. That's all, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Suggestion is, Mr. Salato, you might want to talk with Corporation Counsel, Town Council, if you have a concern on behalf of the neighbors.
Okay, thank you.
I think that would be useful.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for permitting me to make those, address the condition.
So Leslie Creane's here, right? And she's gonna give us
Before we lose track of it, can we just note that we have two other applications that have been submitted that we need to schedule hearings for? They were not listed on the agenda, so you need to add them. One is by Attorney John Nuff on behalf of Woodbridge Village Associates LLC.
Can we do this after a report?
I just don't want to lose track of it, so it should be real quick.
I promise not to.
Okay. I can kind of tell. One's cars, one's rocks.
Good evening.
How you doing?
Good, fine. I am, as I understand, I'm basically here to give you an update on where we are.
Yes, please.
So I will make this quick. You can
Famous
only
last
do it.
words.
I hope somebody will.
Okay.
So over the last few weeks, I have spent much of my time reviewing documents that have been made available to me. That includes the POC, the recently adopted POCD for Woodbridge, the Route 15 exit study for exit 59. It includes the zoning regulations and the Yale economic development plan that was done a few years ago. I've also done some other research in terms of just looking at the history of the settlement patterns of Woodbridge, what streets came first, what streets are still here, what streets aren't, just to give me an idea of how the town has grown and what those patterns are. Sometimes those research endeavors are interesting and give me clues to what's going on, and sometimes they're just interesting.
For someone.
So that's where things are at this point. I have met with Terry and Chris, who were gracious enough to give me some of their time and fill me in on some of the history and also the development patterns and things that have been going on in town. I also met with Jody Allant from the Economic Development Commission, and she was gracious enough to give me a tour of the area, which was wonderful, and got, kind of a different take on the area. I've also toured it myself several times. And so I'm in the process of coding what the area is now, and then also working on developing for this phase a preference survey that will be distributed, and actually that's a question that I have for all of you in terms of what the best way is to distribute it. Let me just very quickly explain how we do preference surveys. They're basically 2 images. People are asked to quickly, and there are no fast rules to this. There's no right or wrong answers. People are asked to say, I like image A versus image B. List 3 things they like or don't like about each one. And these can be pairs of anywhere between 10, even upwards of 30 sets of images, depending upon what we're trying to measure, what we're trying to get a beat on in terms of what people's opinions are in terms of image. The things that we look for and the things that we select images for to guide us are things like building height. How many stories, are people willing to accept? Would they accept? What's too much? What's too little? Sometimes it's signage. Sometimes it's distance from the street. Walkability, infrastructure, street. The ability to walk on a street and have a sidewalk as opposed to a worn path. Streetscape type things, landscaping, building form in terms of, and we don't do this in terms of the numbers, but we look at images in terms of percentage of fenestration, percentage of glass versus solid, things like that. So these give us an idea of what the tolerances are, what the preferences are of the community. We know then how to formulate the form-based code.
Do you use actual structures within town, or do you use
Sometimes I often will use buildings that are not in town because it's a little less personal.
Right, that's what I was wondering.
Yeah. It's not somebody's uncle that owns, dry cleaners or whatever.
Right.
So I actually, for that reason, prefer to use buildings that are not here. Sometimes we'll do sketches of what could be here. Sometimes we'll do that for this phase, but it's often for the next phase of, okay, this is what we've developed based upon your input, in terms of, how big you're willing to accept buildings, what are the, what form are they, how far are they from the street, how close are they to the street. We'll come up with sketches, and then, there may be another sort of small survey. My biggest question for all of you is what the best way to go about distributing the survey is. We can do it by email, we can do it sort of hands-on by having it available at the library or at town hall, or anywhere else. We could mail it. That it can get expensive and cumbersome to tally, but I'm asking all of you how you've done things in the past and what's worked and what hasn't.
Chris,
We had such a great turnout. We
Yes,
surveyed
yes, I
about the
was gonna say.
POCD.
Right.
but how did we distribute that? But that was through emails, the POCD survey?
There was email, library, and also links in newspapers, local newspapers,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
And
why not
also
do- why
link
not do
on
it all?
the.
Yeah, why wouldn't you?
Combination.
Except for maybe you don't need to do the mail yet. See how the first three work out. And,
Yeah.
you know, sort of
So
the
There's also a link on the Woodbridge Town site.
Right.
Yeah, there was
Oh, yeah,
some link on
that's-
the town
Oh,
site.
that's right.
Absolutely necessary.
Yeah.
This is like a zoning Rorschach test? I mean, is that?
I like that, Terry.
Sounds kind of like an eye exam, you know, which is better, one or
Yeah.
two?
I like that. I'm gonna use that.
And that's not information that you gleaned, that we all harvested at the development of the POCD?
We did get a lot of it.
Yeah, but not sort of the either or. I mean,
Yeah.
either or makes it pretty stark, like one or the other.
Well, yeah, it
Well,
did
this
boil
is to
down to
move a little bit
images.
beyond what the
Yeah.
POCD
And,
says.
yeah, we never got into
POCD
the-
is saying, yes, we're suggesting that mixed use go here, but then.
How does
stop
it
at
look?
that point. Now we want to say,
How mixed?
how should we look at this, and what could it look like, and how do we have to change our zoning regs in order to actually implement those?
I can tell you the genius behind the economic development effort done by the Yale School of Architecture was that they were able to insert the prettiest cloud pattern.
And they got rid of all the overhead wires. I
Yeah.
remember those.
Right.
There were no
But the
overhead
cloud-
wires
the
in
cloud
those.
pattern was-
And Claire's moved to Woodbridge.
So can you do clouds?
I'm writing it down, Terry.
Well,
I got
You
Rorschach
really
tests
like-
and clouds.
That's where you got the Rorschach film, the clouds.
No, it was amazing how they could insert. They do some Photoshop that's like putting in
Yeah.
these gorgeous skies over Woodbridge.
You know, it's like when you get up early in the morning,
Yeah.
you turn on any of the local news, every time they go on to the weather, they're always showing you the beautiful sunrise. So, I mean, maybe you want to start with that.
We're just getting punchy.
Okay,
Makes a lot of sense.
sunrise.
You might
Clouds,
also, since we're going to be
sunrise.
looking at, I'm not sure. if this-
Rainbow over, rainbow over
There's a
Woodbridge.
Every bike ride.
I think you guys have been sitting here a little too long
Yes.
tonight.
That's not.
No charge for that observation.
That could be offline.
So I think
Okay,
all of the
so-
above except where you have to advertise. So anything that's free.
Sorry?
Anything that's free, we're in favor of getting the survey out.
There is a town newspaper, Betsy Yagla.
That's right.
Uh-huh.
Have you met Betsy?
We've talked on the phone and
Yeah,
emailed.
she's
so
a wealth of knowledge in terms of how you.
Well, this is the Woodbridge Town News.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's getting passed by
It's
the
not just
bedtime.
Woodbridge Town events. Betsy Yaga runs the town website informational page,
Exactly.
which almost 1,000 people now, or maybe over 1,000 people have signed up for.
Yeah.
And she runs the Facebook page, which again has that kind of hits. So she is very capable of putting this kind of information there,
Exactly.
which has a lot more access
Right.
to
Beautiful.
Who does that town email?
Betsy Yaga.
That's it.
Okay, so it's all this.
Yeah, it's all Betsy.
Good.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Great. The only other thing is if you all have any other questions or concerns about how this is going, it's, we're still early and
Can you give us some kind of a timeline?
I expect that the whole thing will be done within about 9 months. This is sort of, for me, the more plotting part, because it's me reading all of the documents and just trying to get a feel for the town. And then as we move forward into there'll be the survey, there'll be the report on the survey that shows what the results are and lays the groundwork for the regulations that will be developed. That'll be presented to all of you. Any changes that you think need to be made, get made. That's the process, sort of that feedback loop. Then there'll be a draft of the regulations. Again, feedback loops with you, with other commissions, with obviously the
Maybe.
selectmen and the public. It will all, there'll be public presentations, question and answer, public input hopefully without it being too onerous.
We may have some pending things coming up, including
Yeah,
what Jeff
this
will
I
set up.
think you
It's pretty
should see
important.
this.
There's an application that's going to be coming forward to amend zoning regs with respect to down on the flats. So she's going to hand it to you right now. That may be useful for you to put in your consideration.
Okay, great, thank you. Absolutely. Okay, as these things come up, there, I'll have more questions for all of you.
Cool.
Find out the answers as efficiently as I can.
It's always nice to have another set of eyes go and review all those historical notes.
Sorry.
Great.
That was very brief. We really appreciate that.
Have a great evening.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have two items that have been, we have to have set up hearings for.
Well, first you gotta add them to your agenda.
Motion to add.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Who seconded?
I did.
Thank you.
The JCC is requesting, they're like setting our schedule now. I think.
Yeah, no.
So, I just left it at if we can get a quorum on the 21st, then that's great. Otherwise, so I don't know whether everybody gets that question, but I think we'll probably just have Chris send out an email tomorrow. Is that okay?
Yep.
Okay. Thanks, Chris. And the other is the zoning regs, amend the zoning regs for the alternate housing plan development, Woodbridge Village Associates. And
And I was recommending you do that for your May meeting to give us, I did contact Council of Governments, and they preferred to get it for review and comment in April, because their meeting is coming up so quick in March, so,
So April and then May on those two.
in May. And I did mention that to John Nuff, and he didn't seem to have an issue with that.
so we would have our hearing in May.
You would have your hearing at your regular meeting in May.
May, fine, okay, cool.
He actually said April or May.
That's the second, May 2nd.
Yeah.
My birthday. I love spending my birthday. Just saying.
We'll have a cake and other things, whatever you like.
We don't even have any action on this. I don't really know. I'm not doing- Appreciate it.
Wine and cheese.
Okay, we all set with that, Chris?
Yes, thank you very
Okay,
much.
fine. So, let's go into our work session on the application by Tia Russell Dance Studio. Application to modify the existing use permit for the dance studio at 17 Hazel Terrace. So, while there was a lot of talk about this, I had time to go on my computer, and pretty much every town has dance studios, 300 square foot, one space for 300 square feet. Seems to be a standard for dance studios, so right up there with the rest of them. But again, I don't really think it's a parking issue. I think it's really a drop-off and pickup issue. It's nothing to do with parking.
Can we find out when do we know when the police commission or whatever it is going to be?
April 4th.
So April 4th is when they're going to be.
They generally meet the first Tuesday after that, so.
So that's the
5th.
fifth, yeah. I mean, I don't know.
Can we send a letter from this commission to the parking? Because to be honest with you, I'm a little disappointed to hear that they wouldn't put up any no parking signs on one side of the street.
Well,
Well, they didn't
You
make
did.
that determination, it was a
We already
recommendation.
did.
They just,
you did send them a letter,
right.
Right.
and
Ray
She
Stewart-
reported that no parking, that first they said they were going to put up no parking signs, and then they decided they weren't. But,
No, can I clarify for you?
yes, thank you.
So what happened at the first police commission that she attended was last month, not this last week. And they appeared, they spoke, the police commission did agree with the neighbors that no parking would be something that would be a great help, as did Ray Stewart, who was our acting chief. at that time they left. Later that evening, because of some timing, the dance studio did come and wanted a chance to speak to it. So rather than enforce the no parking signs, they deferred the conversation again to this month. So they didn't turn down the parking signs. What they did is put off the conversation to last week when both parties had the opportunity to speak, at which time they said what you just received, which is they're gonna make that determination to come. So it wasn't
Okay.
accepted and denied, it was basically deferred because the two
Thank you.
parties came at different times in the meeting and
Thanks.
didn't have the opportunity to speak.
Okay, thanks.
All about coordination.
That's a little different, isn't it?
Just a little.
Well, there was no denial per their records,
no,
it was just a continuance, so I agree. That's what it says, and,
Well, I'm going by what she reported.
Right, well, that's, yeah.
Okay.
When she left, she thought something was gonna happen, and then the next morning she found out that it wasn't gonna happen.
Okay.
Excuse me, I was at that meeting, I don't know if I can clarify it a little bit.
I don't think so.
No, okay.
We're in a work session,
That's
I don't
fine.
think so.
He can get away with it because he gets paid the big buck,
Oh, he does?
but otherwise,
He's our representative from the Board of
otherwise no
Selectmen.
one else can. Sorry, but thanks anyway.
Okay.
So I don't personally don't have any problem extending this guy's hours. I agree that the parking is a problem, but
I think traffic is a problem.
right, exactly.
It's traffic that's a problem.
It's not a problem. I think it's actually unfortunate. Maybe it is in the wrong spot. I don't really know, but the fact of the matter is, it is allowed, and our job is to follow regs, and they have more than ample spaces for what we require.
And she lives in a business zone, is that not correct?
Oh, it
Well,
is definitely.
again,
I just want to know,
again,
what is the zoning?
And the gentleman
It's a
across the
general
street lives
business
in a
district.
It's a general business district. Okay,
Yes.
that's all I want, I mean,
But
we understand her
it is still
concerns.
unfortunate.
Of course.
And
I
but
mean,
of course,
basically what you're hearing is that there's parking. Parking isn't necessarily always being used because people prefer to drop off instead of park.
Absolutely.
And even if you had a no parking sign there,
They would still.
they would still
Unless there's enforcement.
pick up and drop off.
These are young children, and you
Exactly.
would want our young children not running down the street. There's no
why I
sidewalk.
was asking you about that.
Absolutely, and these are young children. This is not, any parent was gonna wanna get their child closest to that door.
It actually is unfortunate there's not a cul-de-sac at the end of the street because I.
It's unfortunate there isn't a sidewalk.
Right.
Yeah, I get it, but even if
Right.
there was you could drop, I mean, there's plenty of places that have drop off and pick up. This isn't the first business to have to do that in the world. So you just get into a routine, but it doesn't,
And perhaps this is a candidate for a new sidewalk.
Agreed.
Agree.
I'd like to
Absolutely
have,
agreed.
I'd like to have the children be behind a curb and on a surface that's down the street.
You're right.
what about painting a yellow sidewalk on the street in front of,
We can afford the paint, but,
Speak for yourself.
but I'd rather look into it. We may have a sidewalk grant money around, so.
I think the big issue is you talk about the traffic and the drop-off, et cetera. And even the gentleman having to go into the street to direct the traffic. I mean, that's a bit much. I know what he's trying to do. I understood, the testimony. He ought not to have to do that. And that's why you got to come up with a plan that's a little more workable. Okay?
well, I think it's okay that he's doing it. He does own the business.
No, I understand that, but going in the street,
Going to the street.
Direct there's an issue there, and I think that other issue they're going to address has to do with the turnarounds, et cetera. So hopefully they can competently come up with a sensible solution.
There was also the issue of lighting, right? I mean, her letter made a number of claims, but there was a mention about the lack of lighting as well, and if we're talking about extending hours, then that's.
I don't think the extension is really that great, other than maybe the Saturday extension. There's a little give and take in all of that, but we've actually asked in the business district, right, to try to enhance the opportunity for various businesses to be successful. So, and if you can be successful by opening a dialogue with your neighbors to sort of make their lives a little easier, that's even better.
There's just more time when it's going to be dark. There is not good light.
Right.
All right, so is there
I'll make a motion to grant his application.
Second.
With the change that it's, the Saturday is 10 to 8.
10 to 8, right.
Correct.
That's what he said.
Right.
With the understanding that we ask him to do his best to confer.
Well,
To
the only
reduce problems
problem
with
is,
the
if you remember, he said they don't want to talk then.
And that's right, but,
I
just
understand.
asking him to do it,
Yes.
it's not other than a request.
I'm sorry, ask who to do what?
Asking the applicant to just, to the extent they're willing to talk with the neighbors, okay, to make the situation a little better for all, if that's possible. I mean, you can make the overture, and it may produce something, it may not. It's kind of like that, the footnotes in those decisions that we read all the time, Andrew.
I try not to read them.
Okay.
Who seconded?
Alan did.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Very good.
Good luck, Sue.
Thank you.
We have some correspondence. From the Connecticut City Council, the intent to modify an existing telecommunications facility located at 50 Woodfield Road. Is that the one on the Country Club of Woodbridge?
It is.
What's their modification that they're looking to do? I thought we could do anything about it.
They routinely change antennas to accommodate the new technology, cell phones, and we get a blizzard of these.
I thought maybe they were going to amend it or something.
Is it going to be any higher, or is the footprint going to be
Not
any
at all.
larger?
It's just a different piece of equipment. LTE versus, the edge stuff.
Better phone service.
Like,
Okay.
There's a similar one about the high school, from the Siting Council. They'd approve the microgrid.
Oh, look this up. You're just updating.
What did they approve?
The installation at Amity High School of a generator of electricity.
Oh,
2.8 megawatt AC fuel cell.
Yeah, I mean, there's two byproducts. One is water, and the other one is heat. And Amity High School is going to get the benefit of the heat to a remarkable extent. And this thing will never go off. This will be on all the time, produce electricity, putting it into the grid.
It's a big noise.
Makes a little noise.
is it gas, natural gas? pipe?
Natural gas and water and heat are the byproducts. There was a little noise. But there's a nice discussion about the noise issue in their findings. You might find it interesting. And the question, that they had to confront with it in their hearing was how much noise over ambient. Because, it's being located at the high school where there's a big chiller plant anyway.
Right.
So it's how much more above ambient.
I think they're also putting solar panels up on the roof of Beecher.
The permit is issued, whether or not they're doing it or not.
Yeah, I think they are.
everybody's putting up solar on big places.
Anything else?
Minutes.
Oh, yes. Thanks, Chris.
I thought they looked fine.
Well, and is there a motion to accept the minutes, because I'm not going to go anywhere after that.
I
I am moving on from that one, man.
second.
There you go, perfect.
All those
Wait
in
a
favor
minute,
say-
2 seconds.
I did.
Okay.
She
Alan.
moved, I second, let's go.
Whichever
Okay.
way you want.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
You want to do a vote on the minutes?
We don't got to vote on the minutes yet.
Oh, I'm
I'm
sorry.
in favor.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
That's great.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Adjourn.
Adjourn.
Any vote on that?